Okay, I think this is day 5 on this project. I've been told I can't call it Deltestein because that is lame, so I have to come up with a new name. But um, one thing I did not anticipate was the build height of this, because on a Delta you've got a huge amount of space being taken up by your rods before you even get down to the height of the hot end, and so the distance between the hot end and your bed um, is mostly taken up by your arms. So I built this thinking I would have this space here, and didn't anticipate well how much space the motors would take up the way I mounted them. I was going to mount a bed above this, and in the end, just for the sake of moving forward, I cheated and I just taped a piece of glass to the bed like that. That gives me 173 millimeters, not a huge bed height, and really only about 100 millimeters wide. I can improve on that later. I just want to prove the concept at this point. So, got my bed in place. I've got filament. I've got heat. The next part of this is tricky, and I think I talked about setting up the length of the rods and such. But the short answer is I spent a little bit of time already basically making my bed level, meaning that my Z height, if I were to go to my Z0 right here, what that means is that I'm at, if I look at my current position, come on, focus, there we go, then it tells me that my Z right here is at 0. I need to make sure that my Z is 0 at all the other points on the bed. And that is accomplished by adjusting my set screws, or my screws right here. What do you tighten that? When that homes, it comes up and it hits, where is it? That switch. So by adjusting where I have the screw set and where it hits the switch, that determines its height when the hot end is touching the bed. So I spent a little time. I'm not going to bore you with that. You might find it interesting, but it's tedious. Basically trying to find 0 at each location and writing it down and then homing it, making changes, doing it all over again. But I got all that, and then I also had to change in my firmware. Let's see. Oh, I don't remember where it was now. There's a value you have to change once you get all your other settings in place, your rod length and your distance between your carriage and your rail, and the distance between your center and your rod. There's a delta. Boy, I'm really prepared for this. It's a value you have to change that determines whether, as your head moves back and forth, if it's going to curve down, convex curve as it moves, or if it's going to be concave. And you have to dial that number in so that this moves flat across all this build space. So I did all that already too, because it's really boring and tedious. If you really want to know about it, ask me and I'll walk through that. But now that I've got a flat build surface, now I can actually try to print something. Alright, so I'm going to just do the standard boring cube. It's a 10 millimeter cube. So I'm going to home my axes. I'm going to go down to my 0 position. And print. Okay, it's printing. Skirt looks good. Okay, well, it's printing. Let's see how it ends up. Okay, I don't have a fan yet, so it kind of warped at the top and it's not great, but I'm really pleased with the detail on this. I'm trying to get the light on it so you can see the kind of repeatability and accuracy this has. I may have to wait until daylight because it's dark now, but I just can't seem to get good light on this. But it turned out really well. There we go. This is 0.2 layer height, and it's really clean, very repeatable, don't have a lot of the weird artifacts I had on the other one. I'm really happy with this. Okay, wife says I need to print a benchy. This is true, I do need to print a benchy. So, let's go benchy. I'm just going to stop this because I have to see this. Because as it was printing, it's inverted. I've got my x-axis set up wrong. But that looks really good. That's probably the cleanest, other than that little splotch in the middle of the X because it had a little blob on it. And I'm printing on tape, I get that, but that's probably the cleanest of the bottom of a benchy I've ever had. That looks really nice. So I'm going to start over again. So I don't know how well you can see this. The lighting's not great, but you can see the infill is not full. It's not solid, so it's under extruding a little bit. So I really have to fix that. I mean, overall it's still printing very well, but that part of it is just not coming out. So the speed on this thing is actually pretty good. It's pretty quick. I'm running at 200% right now. It's not missing any steps. It's still pretty accurate. So far, without a fan, my POA is overheated like I kind of expected it. But I'm sure I'm going to have to get a fan on it at some point. But the speed, I'm really impressed with. I feel like my retraction settings are way too much, but I'm not getting any streaming and I'm not getting any jamming. It just seems like there's a lot of delay between the steps where it's retracting and extending again. You look at my filament, it's several millimeters. It's probably 6 millimeters that it's retracting. It's almost a quarter turn on my motor there, but I cannot argue with the results. Is that I have no strain, I have no jamming, I have reflow. And here it is, my first benchy on my Delta-Stein. This looks pretty darn good. This is 0.2 millimeters. I did not have a cooling fan, so a lot of areas that, you know, overhangs and such really needed to have a cooling fan, so that would improve a lot of things, you know, the smokestacks there. But some things turned out really well, like the portholes. Just overall, the overall finish of the boat is really impressive. The CT3D thing on the bottom is very legible. And this was on blue tape. I didn't do it on glass, but it's just, I was very, very pleased for my first print on this without doing a lot of tweaking on my settings that at 0.2 millimeters, this turned out very, very clean.